Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Katie. I'm a qualified therapist. I've been in private practice for about 3 years now, and I'm really passionate about all things mental health, wellness, personal development, and therapy. Today we're going to be talking about self-esteem, and I'm basically going to be talking through how you can build your self-esteem and improve your self-esteem if you're somebody who is struggling in this area. So before we get started, please subscribe to my channel. I post videos like this to help you with your mental health, but I also do fun things like talking about TV and reacting to therapy scenes and vlogs and stuff like that. And also follow me on Instagram as well, because if you're somebody that is starting on the therapy journey, I post a lot of reels about what to look for in a therapist, signs that you're with the wrong therapist, how to kind of prepare for a therapy session, etc. So definitely give me a follow over there. But let's just get started with today's video. So I want to start off with what is self-esteem. Self-esteem is basically confidence in your own worth and your own abilities and who you are as a person as well. So your values and your morals. It's essentially the opinion that you have of yourself. So some people struggle, and I'm going to get into the kind of reasons why they might struggle in this area. But people with low self-esteem, it's really difficult, and it can affect multiple areas of your life. So how does having low self-esteem negatively impact somebody then? So as I said, it affects or can affect multiple areas of a person's life, you know, right from school and in work or uni, college, etc. People will struggle socially if they have low self-esteem. They will struggle to feel like they can find connection, make connections, fit in. They feel kind of on the outs. In a way, it's a bit of a cycle because they put themselves there as well because they feel like they're not good enough for certain groups of people or certain individuals. So it can affect friendships, or it can create a lack of friendships. It can also impact romantic relationships as well. So not feeling able to really put yourself out there, really overthinking, or picking people that don't treat you very well because on some sort of level you think that's what you deserve. So definitely socially, in terms of all relationships in your life. It can also obviously affect career. People with low self-esteem won't sort of take risks or be assertive or apply for jobs that they're actually like qualified to do. They don't have a good sense of their skills or their abilities or what they're capable of. So they're not going to apply for certain things that actually they could, you know, definitely do, but they sort of don't see it like that way. So that's really difficult in terms of like prospects and career, or even just like hobbies as well, or sports, or anything that kind of requires you to have that sense of self, that sense of like, I can do this. You're not going to go for, you're not going to actually take part or do it. You're going to avoid it, if anything, or kind of pick things that aren't really suitable for you, or you're not really excelling in, if that makes sense. So it can definitely affect that area of your life as well. Having low self-esteem obviously can affect your mental health. People who have low self-esteem obviously have a negative view of themselves, and people that have a negative view of themselves don't tend to just have a negative view of that. It tends to spread. I feel like negativity is a bit of a lens, and so you don't just switch lenses all the time. That is kind of how you see the world. So you have a negative perspective of life, perhaps of other people. You don't really trust very well, and you don't think things are particularly good for you or aren't going to be good for you either. So this is kind of, we're going into the area of feeling quite depressed. It can also create anxiety, of course, because low self-esteem is associated with perfectionism and trying to perhaps improve, but not in the ways that I'm going to be talking about, just trying to be like a better person, or just be like the people you're seeing on TV or that you're following on Instagram. And so there's all this pressure to like be perfect, to kind of be a particular certain way. That creates so much anxiety. Like that really does. It creates so much sort of pressure of having to be a certain way. So yeah, it's also linked to like eating disorders, OCD, because you start to develop like compulsions, and again, it's all linked to that sense of not having full control of your life and who you are, which of course we don't. So it can definitely link to OCD, and obviously eating disorders, that, you know, negative sense of self can kind of manifest in that way. And I'm sure it's linked to, you know, lots of other kind of mental health conditions as well. So I feel like I'm painting quite the picture in terms of low self-esteem and the impact that it can have. And maybe you're watching this and thinking, yeah, that's me. Like, it's really escalating. I really need to look at ways to improve it. I feel like let's get into the different ways you can build and improve your self-esteem. So the first thing to do is figure out what has caused your low self-esteem. This might not be easy, and this is where like therapy can come in, or journaling, some sort of like self-reflection, or having another person to talk to about it and work through. So the first step obviously is recognizing that you're struggling in this area. And then the next step is to do something about it and to figure out why, and any core beliefs that you might have about yourself. So let's think of some examples. So maybe you were bullied at school. So you might have had a really like, you know, supportive and loving family, but at school you were made to feel completely worthless. Well, there's the root already. You were made to feel very unlikable, maybe uncool, that you'll never fit in, unattractive, not smart enough or too smart, whatever it is. And then you've left school. So a lot of people think like, oh, I'm fine now, I'm free, you know, but it actually really carries through when they go into work or they're trying to make connections as an adult. There's still that sense of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not cool, I'm too smart, I'm too nerdy, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't play sports, so, you know, I just don't fit in, or whatever it is, like, because you've been made to feel that way through bullying. So perhaps your core belief there is just, I'm not good enough. If we flip that, and maybe like school was actually all right, but you had a really troubling home life, perhaps a troubling like childhood, your parents perhaps put a lot of conditions on you, so like conditions of worth. So rather than that unconditional love that we all need from the people raising us and taking care of us, instead what's happened is there's certain conditions in place, like you don't receive love or a hug or comfort or support unless you're really well behaved, or unless you get good grades, or unless you're quiet, you know, as soon as they get home from work, or just lots of conditions like that kind of builds up. Some scenarios are a lot more intense or worse than others, but they're still conditions of worth. So if you've kind of grown up in that environment where you didn't really feel comfortable being yourself, it felt like when you were expressing yourself, you were perhaps punished, or you didn't receive any affection or anything like that, then perhaps your core belief is feeling unloved. So obviously your core belief would be, you know, I have to be this way, like otherwise I won't be loved. And again, that will carry you through and certainly impact your relationships and impact your sense of self, because who you are had been sort of suppressed and diluted as a child. I want to make it clear though that I've used two childhood examples, but self-esteem can get knocked as an adult as well. So if I use an example there, perhaps a romantic relationship, perhaps you got like broken up with really unexpectedly, and it's completely knocked your confidence and knocked your self-esteem because you just didn't see it coming. You don't really know why. Perhaps you didn't get any answers. You feel confused about the relationship. Like you look back and you think like, actually, you know, certain things that I put up with, or why was I with this person for so long? And it creates confusion. And again, it makes you question that sense of self, and all of that can kind of chip away to your self-esteem. Obviously, if you've been in an abusive relationship as well, emotional abuse, mental health abuse, any kind of abuse, that can certainly knock someone's self-esteem. So even if you had quite a good self-esteem as a child and a teenager, unfortunately, as an adult, we can all have experiences that chip away and can knock it. And so therefore we need to obviously build it up. So that's a really good place to start, is just having a good sense of like, where is this rooted in? Like, what is actually the thing that's happened to me, or few things. It might not be just one, but also then what has that created? What was the result of that thing that happened to me? What belief? And kind of narrowing it down to one core thing is really helpful, because it's like, right, I believe that I'm unlovable. Like, let's look at that and tackle that. And again, through therapy is a really good way to do that, or, you know, through a good support system, or journaling, just kind of like really reflecting on that core belief and then challenging it, being like, well, I don't think that's true. I actually think I am lovable. I actually think there's lots of things to like about me, or to obviously love about me. So really starting to kind of challenge that thing that's at the core. The next thing to do is to then change any behaviours associated with that core belief. So perhaps, again, for example, if you feel like you aren't easily liked or loved because of stuff that's happened in the past, you might be doing behaviours such as people pleasing, such as kind of like really making so much effort all the time, never disagreeing with anyone, always putting other people's needs much more ahead of your own, and kind of in this people pleasing trap. You also could be avoiding. So kind of when people invite you to things, think, oh no, I can't, or things have to be a certain way for that to happen. You need loads of time to get ready, or you need to like exercise before, or I see so many clients that have like a system of and it's not about being spontaneous, because it's fine not to be spontaneous, but they feel like they can't just like meet up for drinks with a group of friends unless certain things have happened that day. So like eating right, exercising, getting their hair done, like all sorts of things where for them it makes them feel more ready to kind of like be social, and like within limits, that's fine. You know, if people need to do certain things to feel confident, but what I'm talking about is like then saying no if like none of that can happen, and then like just avoiding leaving the house, becoming quite isolated, avoiding sort of making friends or forming romantic connections because of that fear of rejection. So again, it's a bit of a trap, just like the people pleasing is a bit of a trap where we sort of don't notice if it's escalating and creating things in our life. And it's the same with avoidance as well. We don't notice straight away if we're kind of avoiding social interactions, but then eventually we might find ourselves to be quite lonely or quite isolated, or not really know what's going on. That's the next thing then. So number one, core beliefs. Number two, what am I doing as a result of that core belief? Am I doing certain things because of it? And if so, is there a way to kind of be more flexible? You're not going to change overnight, but kind of break some patterns, break some cycles that you're in, things that you're doing, you know, perhaps put yourself out there a bit more, etc. The next thing then is to stop comparing yourself to other people. This is incredibly difficult. I feel like we all do this in life, but obviously some people do it more than others. And I think if you have low self-esteem, you're really likely to do it. This is where social media comes in. Like, unfollow the people that make you feel bad about yourself. I'm talking like Love Island influencers, models, like, you know, perhaps fitness accounts, people who are really rich, so they're like living the high life, on holiday all the time with lots and lots of people. Any celebrity, anyone like that you're not really gaining anything from. You're not getting like motivation from them or inspiration. You're just feeling rubbish because of that comparison. And the mute button's always there as well when it comes to friends. I have a lot of clients say to me like, I can't unfollow like the friends that social media accounts make me feel bad about myself. Like, you know, they're my best friend, or I've been friends with them for years. And it's like, okay, you don't have to unfollow them. Or that's why the mute button's amazing, because just mute them for a bit. It doesn't even have to be permanent. Just whilst you're in this low period where you're not feeling good about yourself, like, it's okay that certain people, even if they're good friends or family members, you don't want to see certain things, or you know that they're going on holiday and you're like, you know, I can never afford a holiday, so I just don't really want to see their holiday content. mute. You can always ask them what it was like when they get back face to face, rather than having to like follow every single photo, every single thing that's happening. So definitely social media is a good place to start, but also in real life as well. Like, people compare themselves all the time, and it's really about leaning in to the differences and reframing it in your minds that difference isn't bad. All the time people are like, well, this person has this and I have that. And I'm like, but since when is that better than that? Who created those rules? Like, oh, they're really sporty, but I prefer doing crafts, or I prefer just binging Netflix. When did we decide that one of those is better than the other, or like more aspirational than the other? You're you. Embrace it. Embrace the hobbies that you have, the interests you have, what you like to do, and don't worry so much about what other people like to do or what other people look like or social network that people have in their lives. Focus on the connections that you have and maintaining them, or forming new connections, rather than like, they have a million friends and I don't. It's like, maybe you do just have 2 friends, but like, how amazing is that you have 2 close friends? Like, nourish those friendships, rather than thinking like, I need 5 friends, I need 10 friends. It's about reframing, or starting to reframe things like that, and stop comparing yourself. So that's number 3. Number 4 is to review the standards that you've set for yourself, aka looking at any perfectionist tendencies. This is again something that I see all the time, where like, over the years people have created standards for themselves, and it's only when they come to therapy that they realize like, whoa, they're actually really high standards. Like, in their minds, it's normal. It's not the best word to use. In their minds, it's like, it's what they've known the whole time, and they're powering through and trying to achieve it. And it's actually like, wait, no one has ever pointed out to them that that is a high expectation to have of yourself. So I see this all the time with like stuff that I was just speaking about around like friendships and how many, and what life should look like, and travel, and perhaps career. A big one is even having a career. That's one that I always feel compelled to talk about, is like, not everybody like goes to uni, gets a degree in something specific, and then like goes straight into that career, like becoming a doctor, for example. Most people go to uni, perhaps get a degree in whatever, like English, for example. They're not sure what to do when they leave, and they try different jobs over the years. They might end up working in an office that they really like, because they like the people, it's good pay, but it's not like the career that they thought they would have. But it's like consistent, and they don't dread going into the office every day. There's something about, along the way, we've like become very focused in like, no, what's your career choice? And I know so many people that are like, you know, I've got a great job, but it's not necessary. And there's progression in that job, which is great. Because obviously I'm not saying to settle for something. Like, we do want to see progression in life. We want you to achieve your goals. But it's just that kind of picture that people paint of, you have to follow this exact path. When I think most people actually try different hats on, or change jobs when they feel like it's run out of steam, or they don't like the new management, or something happens, and that's okay. I have people in my life who got a degree in something specific and then went for it, and then they didn't like it, and then it's like, what do I do now? But they feel so much happier now that they've picked something completely different. And it's not like that was a waste of time, like it's all led you to that point. So that's just a career example. But again, people have really high standards of themselves in all areas of their lives. Looks, like I have to be a certain weight. I see it a lot with women, but I feel like it is kind of regardless of gender. But like anti-aging, like looking young, the pressure to look younger, to not age, to not like obviously visibly age, because we are all going to age. We are all aging all the time. But there's a lot of standards around that, or like beauty standards. And for men, there's a lot of kind of fitness related beauty standards, I think, in terms of like muscles and six pack, and, you know, even being a certain height. And it's like, you can't help the height that you're at. All of these kind of expectations and standards of yourself need to be addressed in terms of like, actually, is this making me miserable? You'd be surprised if you really reflect. There might be something in your life that you're like, no, I need this. I need this to happen for me, or I need this to be part of my life. And actually, all it is doing is trapping you into feeling really down. It's like not liberating you or motivating you at all. It's just like this horrible sense of, I'm never going to get it. So I just feel miserable. But yeah, I'm still striving for it. So definitely review any kind of perfectionism, any kind of high standards for yourself. The next thing is to focus on what you are actually good at, or the skills that you have, or your competencies or abilities, or what you enjoy. So often through that comparison, through those high standards, we're focusing on everything we don't have, everything we're not good at. There's like a strong negative bias of everything that we think we should be enjoying, we think we should have in our lives, etc. And I want you to literally, even if you have to do it physically, like reshift your focus to what do you actually enjoy. Maybe think back to childhood, what you liked then, or teenage. Often we lose that as we get older. So it could be reading, could be going to the cinema. I know that was one. The reason I use that as an example is that was one for me recently. I went through a bit of a down spell a few months ago, and I was like, what do I actually like? I found myself, struggling in terms of my self-esteem. Really was trying to do things that I thought made me happy, or wanted to be more interested in things that I thought I should be. And one of the things that I tapped back into is I used to be like obsessed with films. Like as a teenager, like I wanted to be like a film director, was obsessed with Steven Spielberg and his movies, James Cameron, Titanic, like obsessed. So I read a couple of books about films, and then I started going to the cinema every week on my own, and I got Letterboxd and started to post like reviews of films, and just like reignited that hobby. And a lot of people would be like, films isn't a hobby, but like I don't care. And this is the thing, it's like you have to not worry about like what other people consider hobbies and what you consider a hobby. You just have to focus on your own opinion, your own perspective, and what makes you happy. So that's just a little personal example from me, but definitely have a think of what you like, what you enjoy, what you perhaps quit because you were like, I'm not good enough, but actually like it's not about being good enough. Perhaps you enjoyed it. So that could be sport, or arts and crafts, perhaps like going to the gym. I think I'm again saying that one because that's a good one for me. I thought I hated the gym. I actually really like it because I found the right form of exercise for me. So again, having a look at stuff like that, of like where you actually just trapped in thinking of something that you felt like you should enjoy, like running, for example. That's something that I know I absolutely hate, but I love going to like a Pilates class or yoga class or weights class. So now I feel really good at the gym. Definitely have a look at things that you enjoy, hobbies you might want to start. It doesn't have to be an old hobby. It can be a brand new hobby, but also your actual skills. Like I'm sure all of you watching this like have skills that you're good at, whether it's cooking, whether it's communication skills, perhaps you're a good listener, perhaps you're good at writing, perhaps you're good at being creative, like painting, drawing, like making something from scratch, woodwork, DIY. Perhaps you're good at like interior design, you're really good at sort of making your home like absolutely amazing. Content creation, I know that's something that in terms of my self-esteem, I'm really trying not to be hard on myself and like learning as I go and trying my best. But like, is my self-esteem the highest when it comes to this? No, but I'm really using the skills that I'm talking about in this video around like, it's okay because I'm not comparing myself to other people. I'm meeting myself where I'm at. And there's certain skills that I've developed that I'm really proud of, that I've learned for the first time. And there's other things that I've got a long way to go and I still don't have a clue what I'm doing, and that's also okay. So it's meeting yourself where you're at, but have a think about things that you're good at, perhaps things that you have written in your CV, perhaps feedback that you've received. Look at old appraisals from jobs where, you really enjoyed and what they said about you, perhaps like school reports, or obviously if it's really negative, don't look at that. But like, if you know that one, you've definitely had positive feedback from people before, have a look and be like, oh yeah, you know what, actually, I forgot that I'm really good at like customer service and talking to people, like I'm a warm person, and hone in on that. Your brain won't be used to doing that and it's going to feel uncomfortable, but you need to focus more attention on the skills that you have and using them and getting that boost from using them than all the stuff that you don't have going on, or you're not good at, or you can't do, or all of that. The next thing is I want you to ask yourself about what you can actually change and what you can't. So often the habits that I spoke about at the start when we have low self-esteem are all rooted in a lack of control. Like we can't change certain things, and that makes us feel really down about ourselves. Yeah, we tend to focus on the things that we really want to control that we actually can't, and we sort of forget about the stuff that we actually do have more of a say in, or the stuff that we do have a bit more control, we escalate that control. So for example, how we look is a really good one to think about. We do have a lot of control over that. Not everything, like you're born with your face, you're born with your body type, and you're born with certain features. But of course, these days, there's a lot you can change. You can dye your hair, you can have plastic surgery, you can get Botox, you can go to the gym, you can diet, etc. And it's when that really ramps up and there's no acceptance of anything that can be concerning. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. I'm not anti-plastic surgery or anything like that, but there's a difference between somebody getting a procedure done because they're like, I really just can't live with this like feature anymore, or I feel like it's gonna really boost my self-esteem and my confidence if I get this done, to somebody that like it never ends, like it's never good enough. And it's that mental place that is the difference of like, I'm going to get this done, been wanting to for a while, and it will be good, to like that, but then I want to get something else done, or I want to get it redone, and I still feel really low about myself. And it's this thing that never ends. And you're trying to gain control, but you'll never have a full grip control of how you look. Again, or in life as well, in terms of like socially, you can't control friends. Like friends will let you down. Friends will cancel your plans. Friends won't text back. And we need to not absorb that so much in our self-esteem. It's annoying. Like if you've got a friend who like is just so bad at replying, it can knock you, especially if your self-esteem's already wobbly. It's like, oh, well, they clearly just don't want to talk to me. But actually often they have stuff going on, or they're just a bit rubbish and it's not personal. And it's about reframing it. And like, I actually can't control, like if they're going to be bad at replying, or if this person doesn't want to see me again for a date, I can't control that. Like I cannot make them like me. And so it's letting go of that. It's really challenging. You know, I'm saying this like it's really easy. This is stuff as all human beings we struggle with, but it's just that kind of challenging yourself, challenging your thoughts, and shifting your perspective to like, I actually can't control that, and focusing on what you can control, which is your emotions. Well, you can't really control your emotions, but like you can control how much you let that really get to you. You can refocus your attention. You can give yourself a boost, cheer yourself up. You can focus on the people that are replying to you rather than like that one person that isn't talking to me. Got a whole host of people that are talking to you. So again, it comes back to that reframing. Another thing you can do is, and it's kind of linked to stuff that I've already spoken about today, which is practicing acceptance. So really, like, I think I phrased it before, is like meeting yourself where you're at. Acceptance is so powerful when it comes to self-esteem. Who you are, look at your values, look at your personality, stuff about you that you really care about. Like, are you a family person? Are you somebody that has a really good sense of humor, that, you know, loves to laugh? Are you an animal lover? Are you somebody that loves being in nature? Are you a really loyal friend? Look at all those types of things. Look at your value system, write stuff down. I find that quite difficult. Like, I think looking at values is something that we don't just naturally do. We're not like, what are my values today? And it's a really interesting exercise to have a look deeply at who you are as a person, with no change, just who you are, and really loving it. Like really being like, oh yeah, I like all of that about me. Like I wouldn't change any of that. That can give you a really strong sense of self, to accept who you are, where you're at in this stage of life, because things change. So like, it's okay if you're different to who you were a few years ago. It's also okay if like where you're at right now is going to change in the future. You're accepting who you are in this current moment. There's meditations along these lines. I'll try and leave links down below. Meditations where you're like very present, you're grounded, and it's all about practicing like self-love acceptance, it's probably a lot of people's worst nightmare. But if you're somebody that sort of feels like they need to hear these types of things and really, I don't want to say drill it in, because the meditation's not supposed to be like drilling anything in, but like really affirms, that's the word I'm looking for, really kind of affirms you. I'll definitely link some things down below. Part of self-acceptance as well is forgiveness. So maybe you weren't, a perfect person, kind of welcome to being human. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've been broken up with, and, you have a role in why that happened. It's really not your self-esteem, but perhaps it's because you made mistakes or you did something wrong. And, quote marks over wrong, because everyone's got a perspective. Everyone's going to be different in terms of what they view as wrong. Or maybe like things as a teenager or even as a child, there's something that you're holding on to. So this is, again, something that's really good to look at in therapy, but you can obviously also look at that yourself. And perhaps you need forgiveness, self-forgiveness of like, actually, I was young when I made that mistake, or actually, like, I've learned my lesson from that thing that happened a few weeks ago, or days ago even, or yesterday. It's about really digging deep and being like, I'm not a terrible person. Like I made a mistake. There's there's a difference. We absorb so much of what we do and we internalize so much as human beings. Obviously, again, some more than others. And that is such a trap as well. It's such a mental trap. So be mindful that you might be caught in something that you're not letting go of, that you haven't forgiven yourself for, and really dig deep and be like, actually, that doesn't equate to me being like worthless or whatever the core belief is that you've looked at the start. That could be linked to something that you're not forgiving yourself for. And avoiding self-blame for certain things as well. So I'm looking at I've just spoken about like forgiveness for things that perhaps, we're all human, we all make mistakes, but there might be stuff that you're blaming yourself for and it actually isn't your fault. So again, I keep using the breakup example. Maybe it's because I have had quite a few clients going through breakups, and they carry the weight of the entire relationship and breakup and post-breakup all on their shoulders. And I'm the one that's always like, okay, yes, you had your role. I'm not here to tell you that you're perfect and you didn't do anything wrong. But like, there's two people in this relationship, maybe even others, external factors as well that happened. Perhaps the living situation or financial situation or friends or family getting involved, or, the partner was in a bad place themselves, or there's so many other factors. Are you putting everything on you? Are you putting everything on you when it comes to your career, when actually, you're trying your best and some things just aren't working out and some things are, and it's mixed results, or it's just the climate that we live in, the kind of job market. Again, like externalizing some things rather than like, this is all on me. This is my fault that I haven't figured out what I'm doing with my life yet, and I'm in my 30s. Or it's my fault that like I lost that friend. My fault that my mum is the way she is, or my parent is the way they are. Like whatever it is, really challenge that and be like, actually, is it all my fault? Really dig deep and have a look at that. And another thing is to think about if you have had a moment of high self-esteem before. So having a look at where you want to be and trying to figure out if that's actually happened before. So kind of picturing yourself with a higher sense of self, more confidence, perhaps have an image in your mind or a description, and think about if that was ever in place before. Perhaps when you were a child, teenager, at school, at uni, or when things were in place for you. So I know for me, I remember, and I use the film thing as an example, but that's just one small part of, I was reflecting on when I felt happier and felt a bit more like myself and a bit more confident. And that was one of the things that came up out of like many things. It's about making that list in your mind, or, quite literally writing it down, of things where what was in place for you. Was there certain people in your life that you've lost touch with that actually made you feel really good about yourself? Certain friends, certain like family members, people that you just haven't connected with for a while, but actually when they were in your life, you felt a lot better. You might not always be able to like reconnect, but it's definitely good to think of things like that. Or the opposite, like actually I felt really good about myself until I met this person. And it's not about putting it all on one individual, but again, there's something to be looked at there around like, is there anybody in my life that's like chipping away at my self-esteem, and really reflecting on that and maybe doing something about that. Have a look at what was in place when you had better self-esteem and think about how you can recreate it in your life now. And then finally, in terms of like the reflection and the more kind of mental things that you can do, because I'm going to give you more like actions next. The final thing, which is linked to self-acceptance, is self-compassion. So being softer. So a lot of my clients will say to me, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to just look in the mirror and be like, I'm so great, I'm so amazing. And no one's asking you to do that, don't worry. If that works for you though, great. Like, I'm a big believer in do whatever works for you. But what I'm talking about is just like not being so harsh. The way people get very comfortable in their own minds of being incredibly self-critical, incredibly harsh. It's all linked to the core beliefs and the high standards that I've spoken about previously. And all I'm saying is, let's make that a bit kinder, a bit softer, a bit more compassionate, rather than like, I made that mistake. What is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Nothing will ever go right for me. Like, this keeps happening. Like, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. And then you start escalating, thinking like, you know, it's no surprise that person broke up with me, or my friend won't text me back, or I didn't get that job because I'm just awful, and it's all bad and it's all awful. And actually, in that moment when you've made a mistake, whatever it is, maybe made a mistake at work, it's about being like, you can be annoyed at yourself. Like, it doesn't have to be this like instant kindness, but just being like, you know what, I've got a lot going on at the moment. I've made a mistake. I'm going to try and fix it. And that's all I can do. And even that, like the difference, because that doesn't scream super kind, loads of self-love. But I'm telling you, the difference with what I've just said will make the world of difference, because it's just softer. It's just more compassion there of like, you know what, made a mistake. I didn't mean to. I haven't slept very well. I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and I just went for it and it didn't work. And, you know, I will just fix it, and tomorrow's a new day. That is kinder. That is way kinder than like, what the hell is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Everything is so, so bad. So that's what I mean by that. So definitely bringing in some self-compassion into your life, into your language, into your thoughts. Okay, so I've spoken a lot about what you can reflect on and challenge yourself more from like a mental perspective, and in your minds and your thoughts, and, you know, changing up the energy, changing up the mental energy. It's a lot of hand gestures today. And now we're going to move on to what you can like physically do. I sort of have mentioned this in terms of hobbies. So definitely like trying, so I guess that's the first one, like doing stuff that you like, doing stuff that you enjoy, doing stuff that you feel like you're good at, like cooking, exercising, art, anything at all that you like and enjoy. The next action would obviously be maybe going to therapy or practicing meditation, those general things to kind of improve your mental health overall, but also to dig into and to get support with all the stuff that I've just spoken about. The next thing as well is to have a support network. Like, when you're struggling with your self-esteem, your mood will be low, you won't be feeling good. The tendency will be to like retreat and to isolate. And I would really want to encourage you to reach out to the people that do give you that unconditional love, that have known you for years, that like you just how you are, that don't make you feel bad about yourself. Like, obviously be mindful of who you're reaching out to, and spend time with them, like hang out with them, get that kind of boost from them, and don't suffer with this alone. Another thing to do is what I call the like column technique. This is something that I did whilst I was in uni, when I was really kind of struggling through a hard time. It's kind of very like CBT, so it's certainly not for everyone, but it's that kind of homework around like, at the end of the day, writing. So in one column, you had to write anything that went well that day, anything at all, like things that, so kind of like practicing gratitude, but it's more like positives of the day. So that would be in one column. And the next column, it would be your role in that, and like values and qualities about you associated with that good thing. So what would be an example for me today so far? So for me today so far, I got out of the house early, went on a really nice walk in the sun to the office, and I started filming content straight away. So in terms of me in that situation, I feel like my role in that is the fact that I was organized in terms of like packing my bag for the day. I was quite motivated as well. Even though it was a Monday and it's not easy to be motivated, I felt really kind of motivated to get out. I feel like I was focusing on the small things this morning, which was quite nice. So like literally just the fact that it was sunny, I was really taking that in and being mindful of that as I walked, and like really just enjoying feeling like the warmth on my skin. The fact that I was efficient as well. So when I got into the office, I didn't just sort of dilly-dally or anything. I just kind of got on with stuff straight away. So I feel really good about that. So it's not actively thinking of all the little ways that you had a role in stuff that went well today. Yeah, that's the column technique. That's like people that really benefit from writing things down. I feel like that will really work for you. So another good thing to do is to volunteer or to do something nice for someone else. So something small, like buy someone a coffee or help somebody out with a favor, anything you can think of. You'd be surprised. It gives you just a good sense of like who you are as a person. It's like a good feeling. It makes you feel good about yourself. Obviously the idea is to help someone else, but the benefit kind of mentally for you is really powerful too. So it has to be like sincere, and it has to be genuine and something that you feel good about doing. So don't feel like you have to aim really high with this and start, volunteering if you don't have time to volunteer, but just anything small where you can do something good for someone else. And yeah, you'd be surprised at how powerful that is in terms of just feeling a bit better in general. Like it's good for your well-being, but just feeling particularly better about yourself and who you are. So definitely do that for a bit of a boost. And then the final thing is to bring some adventure into your life. So what does that mean? Maybe you've been quite stuck in this for a while. So as I mentioned a few times today, low self-esteem is a bit of a trap, or like the things that happen as a result of low self-esteem are a bit of a trap. Perhaps you spent months and months trying to please everybody, not doing anything for yourself. Perhaps you've been trying to do things that you don't really enjoy and sort of neglecting stuff that you do enjoy. So life has been maybe a bit stagnant for you for a while, or just not great. The kind of status quo hasn't been particularly enjoyable or positive. So having some sort of like activity or adventure, doesn't have to be a holiday or traveling. Obviously that is the main example of what I'm talking about, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be going for a drive, just doing something a bit different that really kind of shakes things up for you, if that makes sense. When we get stuck, we get really stuck, and we sort of think the same things every day. We do the same things every day. We do the same things every weekend. And what I'm encouraging you to do is break that status quo somehow. Doing something with friends, doing something on your own, getting out if you live in a city. I know for me, it's really nice to like go out to a bit more of like a rural area, obviously if you have the means to, in terms of driving, and going for like a hike, doing something fun, having like a date night if you and your partner haven't done anything for a while, going to a restaurant that you've always wanted to try, whatever that means to you. When I say the word adventure, really have a reflection on what that could look like for you. Again, it might just give you that kind of boost that you need, not only because it's enjoyable, but you can feel really proud of yourself. Like, oh, I did something so different today. I actually like went on this hike, and it's not something that I normally do, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I did well and did my best and got some nice photos of the view, and feel like I've achieved something today. And just that sense of like, I did that is again really, really powerful. So some book recommendations as well would be this one and this one, very, very similar. So Overcoming Perfectionism, if that's one of your traps, and obviously Overcoming Low Self-Esteem. So these are for my CBT people who love sort of like having things to do, who like to kind of have the more clinical approach. So you don't have to do this. What will work just as well, especially as coming from a person-centered therapist, is just talking about this with your therapist. You don't have to have like a set of things to do, but I would really recommend these books if you are more that way inclined and you kind of just want to start tackling this for yourself. Do these things with compassion though. Obviously they'll talk about that in the books. This isn't about tackling your low self-esteem with perfection. Like, be mindful that you don't want to you know, fall into that trap of like, I need to improve my self-esteem and I need to do this and this and this and this. That kind of goes against a lot of what we're talking about today. Be patient with yourself and do the approach your way and at your pace. There's no rush. Like, we want to slowly build yourself back to where you were before. So I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to talk about today. I've covered a lot in terms of how to reframe your mindset, how to challenge your thoughts, how to be more self-accepting, more self-compassionate, as well as more practical things as well, like physically going out and doing certain things, doing a nice thing for someone else, going on an adventure, starting a new hobby, reading these books, going to therapy, as well as like practicing like meditations, etc. So I really hope you found today's video helpful. I hope it's given you some ideas of where to start when it comes to improving your self-esteem. If you did find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Please also subscribe to my channel for more content and give me a follow on Instagram as well. Thank you so much if you made it to this point. I really appreciate it, and take care, and I will see you in the next one. Oh my god, that's the fire alarm again. No way. I'm gonna quickly wrap this up and go again. Bye everyone.